1. Pirate software and stop killing games, how being called a villain boosted 1M signatures. 2. Ubisoft's destruction clause, why it's not the only studio demanding your game's end. 3. Stop killing games, the fight to preserve online gaming. 4. AAA publishers versus stop killing games, why big studios oppose game preservation. 1. Pirate software and stop killing games, how being called a villain boosted 1M signatures. In a surprising turn of events, the Stop Killing Games petition has reached a staggering 1 million signatures. However, what's truly intriguing is the claim made by Jason Thor Hall, known as Pirate Software, a vocal critic of the movement. He asserts that the backlash against him on social media, portraying him as the villain, actually turbocharged the momentum of the SKG movement. This counterintuitive argument adds a dramatic layer to the fight for preserving access to purchased games. Pirate Software boldly states that the controversy surrounding his stance and the subsequent online firestorm that labeled him as the opposition unified SKG supporters, injecting fresh energy and propelling the petition to its landmark achievement. But here's where it gets controversial. Some fans accuse Hall of muddying the waters, while others defend his perspective and acknowledge his value to developers, urging collaboration. The idea that Pirate Software became an unintentional catalyst resonated with many, with some theorizing that he was just a convenient target. Beyond the drama, the core challenge remains: the petition's clash with EU copyright law, which fundamentally protects digital rights management, DRM. Granting SKG's demand would require a radical and legally complex overhaul of established intellectual property and contract law hierarchies in the EU, far beyond what the petition could achieve alone. This reality presents significant hurdles, proving that the fight is far from over, especially as the Stop Killing Games petition deadline looms in the distance. What do you think about Pirate Software's impact on the movement? Let us know in the comments below. 2. Ubisoft's destruction clause, why it's not the only studio demanding your game's end. The dark secret behind your game collection: you don't own what you think you do. Imagine spending hours, days, or even years playing your favorite game, only to have it taken away from you without warning. Sounds like a nightmare, right? Unfortunately, this is a reality for many gamers, thanks to a little-known clause in the End-User License Agreement, EULA, of many popular games. But here's where it gets controversial. Ubisoft, a well-known game developer, has been making headlines recently for a clause in its EULA that requires players to destroy their games if the studio decides to end service for them. However, this is not a new or unique clause, and Ubisoft is far from the only studio that has it in its EULA. The clause in question. The specific clause in question is Clause 8, the termination clause, which states, upon termination for any reason, you must immediately uninstall the product and destroy all copies of the product in your possession. This means that if Ubisoft decides to end service for a game, not only can you no longer play it, but you must also destroy any copies of the game you own. But this is not just a Ubisoft problem. As it turns out, this clause is not unique to Ubisoft. In fact, it can be found in the EULAs of many other popular games, including Final Fantasy VII Remake, Metaphor, ReFantazio, and Oblivion Remastered. Even your copies of Baldur's Gate 3 have got to go if Larian Studios ever deems it so. So, what does this mean for gamers? This means that, technically, you don't own your games, not even physical copies. While no one is going to come knocking at your door to check if you still have a physical copy of The Crew and then stand there and watch you while you throw it into a bonfire, the clause is still there, and it's wild. And this is the part most people miss. The fact that this clause is not unique to Ubisoft, but rather a common practice in the gaming industry, is a major concern for gamers. It raises questions about ownership and control over digital content. If we don't own our games, who does? The Stop Killing Games Initiative. The Stop Killing Games Initiative, which has gained over 1 million supporters, is attempting to stop studios from making games unplayable months or years after gamers paid for them. While this initiative is focused on Ubisoft, it's clear that the issue is much broader. So, what can gamers do? While we can't change the EULAs of existing games, we can demand change from game developers and publishers. We can also support initiatives like the Stop Killing Games campaign and advocate for better protections for gamers. The final question. Do you think it's fair for game developers to require players to destroy their games if service is ended? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 3. Stop Killing Games, the fight to preserve online gaming. Imagine buying a game you love, only to have it vanish from your library because the publisher decides to pull the plug. This is the harsh reality that the Stop Killing Games movement is fighting against, and it's sparking a heated debate in the gaming community. This weekend, the movement hit a major milestone by becoming a European citizens' initiative, but not everyone is celebrating. Video Games Europe, a powerful trade association representing game developers and publishers in the EU, has voiced strong opposition. In a statement released on Friday, Video Games Europe acknowledged the passion of gamers but argued that shutting down online services is a complex decision that companies shouldn't be forced to avoid. They claim that when a game is no longer commercially viable, developers need the option to discontinue its online features. While this can be disappointing for players, the industry ensures that they are given fair notice of any changes, in line with local consumer protection laws. But here's where it gets controversial. Video Games Europe argues that private servers aren't always a viable solution. They point out that these servers lack the protections that companies put in place to secure player data, remove illegal content, and combat toxic community behavior. This could leave rights holders legally liable. Additionally, many games are designed to be online only from the start, and forcing developers to maintain private servers or single-player modes could make these games prohibitively expensive to create. The statement concludes with an invitation for further discussion, expressing a willingness to engage with policymakers and the leaders of the European Citizens Initiative in the coming months. Video Games Europe's argument boils down to cost and liability. They claim that it's too expensive for developers to offer private servers or single-player modes for games that lose online multiplayer support. Moreover, fan-supported versions of these games could create legal risks, especially regarding cybersecurity and content moderation. On the flip side, the Stop Killing Games movement highlights a critical point: players are paying for these games, and they don't usually get their money back if the game shuts down. While developers and publishers might argue that players are buying a license to access a game rather than owning it outright, many players don't see it that way. The Stop Killing Games website explains that this practice is a form of planned obsolescence, which is not only harmful to consumers but also makes game preservation nearly impossible. The legality of this practice is largely untested in many countries, adding another layer of complexity to the debate. Despite Video Games Europe's stance, the Stop Killing Games movement is gaining traction, with over 1 million signatures for its EU petition. However, even if the movement succeeds in creating policy changes, they will only apply in the EU and potentially the UK. This means publishers and developers could still shut down games in other regions. And this is the part most people miss: the debate over game preservation and player rights is far from over. As the gaming industry continues to evolve, so too will the conversations around these issues. Where do you stand on this debate? Do you think developers should have the right to shut down games, or should players have more protection? Share your thoughts in the comments and let's keep the conversation going. 4. AAA publishers versus Stop Killing Games: why big studios oppose game preservation. The battle lines are drawn in the digital world, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Last week, the Stop Killing Games initiative, spearheaded by Ross Scott, surpassed a monumental milestone of 1 million signatures, a testament to its growing support among gamers and advocates for video game preservation. As the count soared to over 1.2 million, adjusting for any dubious or ineligible entries, the celebration among enthusiasts was palpable. Yet, amidst this jubilation, a formidable opponent voiced its dissent. Video Games Europe, a significant entity backed by AAA publishers, issued a statement challenging the initiative's premise. But here's where it gets controversial. Video Games Europe argues that maintaining perpetual access to purchased games could drastically inflate production costs, thereby stifling developers' creativity. They contend that private servers, often touted as a viable alternative, lack the necessary safeguards to protect player data, prevent illegal content, and ensure a safe community environment, potentially exposing rights holders to legal liabilities. Furthermore, they emphasize that many games are inherently designed to be online only, complicating any efforts to preserve them post-delisting. Video Games Europe insists that when a game is removed from online platforms, it is a decision made with considerable forethought and communicated well in advance to the players, underscoring the multifaceted nature of such decisions. They argue that companies must retain the flexibility to discontinue online services for games that are no longer economically sustainable. Accompanying their statement was a detailed 5-page document reiterating these points in dense corporate jargon, suggesting that allowing players to operate non-commercial games on private servers could paradoxically harm the players themselves. The release of this statement prompted immediate scrutiny of Video Games Europe's motives, quickly revealing that it is not a governmental body but a lobbying group representing major industry players like Activision Blizzard, Bandai Namco, and others, who arguably have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo. This revelation sparked widespread discussion and raised the question, who does Video Games Europe truly represent? And this is the part most people miss. The influence of such organizations extends far beyond mere statements, shaping the landscape of gaming through their substantial lobbying efforts. As the Stop Killing Games initiative continues to gather signatures, the resistance from industry giants signals a looming showdown that could redefine digital ownership rights. If you're in the EU and believe in the cause, you can still make your voice heard by adding your signature. Don't forget to engage with us across various platforms where we delve deeper into these issues, share the latest industry news, and celebrate the art of gaming. Your thoughts and comments are invaluable. Do you think initiatives like Stop Killing Games can truly change the industry, or are they merely symbolic gestures against the entrenched powers of big publishers?